Hey everyone, Daniel Lee here, Project Coordinator at Jay Jung Architect. Welcome back to our series on the building process, from feasibility to project completion. In previous episodes, we talked about how to find the right property and confirm whether zoning supports your goals. But once you've locked in your site, the next step is figuring out the rules you'll need to follow. And that's where things can get a little complicated. Every city in BC has its own zoning bylaw. And while the terms might sound familiar, setbacks, lot coverages, and floor areas, the way cities define and apply them can vary a lot. Even something basic like what counts as a basement might be handled totally differently from one municipality to another. Understanding these rules early on saves time and avoids headaches and keeps your project on track. So today, let's break down 5 of the most common zoning restrictions you'll come across. Lot coverage, floor area, setbacks, building height, and off-street parking. These aren't the only rules, but they're usually the ones that have the biggest impact on what you can build. Let's start with lot coverage. This refers to how much of your land you're allowed to build on. For example, if your lot is 7,000 square feet and your city allows 45% lot coverage, your building's footprint can't be more than 3,150 square feet. The rest of the land has to stay open for driveways, landscaping, or outdoor spaces. It's a key number to check when you're planning your building layout. Next is the floor area, and more specifically, floor area ratio, or FAR. In Vancouver, this is called floor space ratio, or FSR. Same idea. You divide the total area of your building by the lot size. So if your building is 5,000 square feet on a 10,000 square foot lot, your FAR is 0.5. This helps regulate how much total space you can build, but doesn't control the shape of the building. This brings us to an important point. FAR doesn't tell you how many stories you can build. Now that's where building height restrictions come into play. You might be allowed a certain amount of floor area, but the height limit could force you to fit that into fewer stories. So even if the numbers work on paper, the height rule could limit your design options. And to make it even more complicated, cities include or exclude different parts of the building in their floor area calculations. Some count basements, some don't. Some include garages or mechanical rooms, and others don't. These small differences can make a big impact on your design. Now, let's talk about setbacks. Setbacks are required distances between your building and your property lines. They're used to provide space for privacy, sunlight, landscaping, utilities, and other emergency access. If you build too close, and sometimes even by a few inches, you may have to redesign or apply for a variance. These rules are often overlooked early on, but can delay your permit later if not handled properly. As for building height, this might be a bit complicated. Each city has a different definition. For example, in Burnaby, you'll have to calculate the average elevation either at the front, back, or both, depending on your zoning. That average elevation serves as a base from which height can be measured, including the basement. Finally, let's touch on off-street parking. Cities used to require a set number of parking stalls based on the size or use of the building, but that is changing right now. With the new provincial laws like Bill 44 and Bill 47, many parking minimums are now optional, especially if your project is near transit. In some areas, you might not even need to provide any parking at all. That said, not all cities have removed their parking rules. Some still require a minimum, but most are offering more flexibility. Understanding how to work within these updated rules can save space, reduce construction costs, and even make your project more financially viable. To recap, the 5 zoning tools that show up the most: lot coverage, floor area, setbacks, height, and parking, and the ones that usually shape your project from the ground up. But depending on your site and what you're building, other rules can come into play as well. For instance, in Vancouver, once you build more than 3 units, you may be required to go through the LPT process, which adds way more time and complexity. This is why it's so helpful to work with professionals who understand both the design side and the regulatory side. These zoning rules might seem straightforward at first, but it's often the small details, like how a slope affects your height limit, or whether a certain space is counted in FAR. That can change everything. Sometimes just interpreting a bylaw correctly can unlock more buildable area or reduce unnecessary costs. Thanks for tuning in. In the next episode, we'll dive into development permits and how the city design guidelines can shape your project before you even submit your drawings. Thank you. See you then.